The Hustleshare podcast is sponsored by One CFO, the Philippines' leading fractional CFO services provider for startups, scale-ups, and SMEs. Experience the power of tech-enabled, efficient, affordable, and expert-led fractional CFO services. Let One CFO handle your finances so you can focus on growing your business. Book your free CFO consultation today.
I'd say I also started from the ranks when I started in the in the startup business, right? In the BPO industry, to answer your question in terms of what do I have to do, it takes a lot of effort as an individual to learn things. It's not just really about hitting the numbers.
Welcome to Hustleshare, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Baetyong.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Share Podcast. I'm super excited because this is close to home, and literally it is home. The QBO is right behind Alwyn, as we've said it, and this always hits home because I don't know if you've been listening to the podcast, but I'm the first cutie ever. This is when Kat opened QBO in 2016. And there wasn't even a QBO yet. This is in the old DTI office. And I was there because I literally came off of a loss in my first startup, Party Pal, and I was floating. I needed a place to stay. I felt like this was the best place, and it just so happens that it's free, and Kat is running the show. But today, we talk about QBO in its current state. And we'll be welcoming the new Executive Director of QBO, Miss Alwyn Rosel. Whoop, whoop. Alwyn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here.
Nice seeing you again.
Yes.
Big fan of what you've been able to do, and you guys are doing amazing. And QBO is always home. I always say it wherever I go.
Thank you.
Whenever you need me, I call, even if I say ayaw. There you go.
I know, we know that, and thank you for that, Ron.
No, and there's a big reason behind it. It's because, again, Pinoy tayo eh. I owe a debt of gratitude because I wouldn't be here without QBO if nobody gave me a shot to actually work there. So why will I say no to a vital piece of where that was, or where I built how I got here, right? So that whenever you guys need me, I'll be there, regardless of who's running the show. But before I get carried away, I need to ask you the $1 million question. Alwyn, what's your hustle?
Okay. So what's my hustle? My hustle is really about supporting people and the community. I find joy when I work with people, when I interact with people. And that, as cliche as it may sound, right? It's like you touching people's lives. So in that way, I feel that there's more connection building. There's more impact that's created when I feel like, I was able to help in my own little way. So now with the role or with everything that I do, that's the kind of thing that I want to always impart with everyone. That my hustle is really just to be there and be able to help in my little way, whether it's community, whether it's family, whether it's friends.
That's amazing. And that's what it's needed for this job, because you kind of have to be really selfless to do it, because QBO, man, I mean, the way you guys have really helped out the ecosystem, and I'll go on a tangent here a little bit.
Mhm.
QBO is vital because it allows access. It makes it you guys are the most, how would I say it? You guys are the most inclusive entity in the Philippine startup ecosystem. You guys predate the TBIs. The TBI system was technically, correct me if I'm wrong, patterned off of QBO, right? And without this, the people that wanted to create a startup in the Philippines will not have access or have no clue what to do if they want to start a startup, right? And that, I don't know what the real number is now. I'm pretty sure it's thousands and thousands and thousands. a lot of people have tried becoming startup founders. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, a lot of people are probably suffering as a startup founder now, as we all are. But it's good because that's how you build a nation, through entrepreneurship and through technology. So Kubo is the key for getting that done.
Thank you.
So again, Alwyn, before we talk about Kubo and everything, I need to go to the origin story because you're now, how many now? Well, Earl, Diane, Kat, JU. You're the fifth. Ayan, you're the fifth leader. And before we even talk about the leadership, I need to ask you to buckle up real quick because we have to go all the way back and understand your origin story. Because we're going to have to ride the Hustleshare time machine. All right. And that's what I want to find out. I want to understand what's the origin story of Miss Alwyn. So what was it like growing up, Alwyn? And what's your first exposure to hustling that you remember?
Okay. I grew up in the town of Navotas. That's not
wow, a seaside town. There you
yes,
go.
right. So it's kind of far, right? So it's a very simple life. We have a small family. I live with my titas, my lola. I grew up, just being very connected with family. And then growing up, I had friends. I went, to school, have the usual barkada, gimmick, time to time, right? And then I studied college in Los Baños. So that really made the difference. I went to UPLB, and that was the first time I was really alone. So that's where I learned independence, I would say, right? So it was a second home. I'd like to believe that it helped build my character in a sense, because that sense of independence, that you have to make decisions for yourself, whether the consequences will be good or bad, right?
Adulting.
It's something that kind of defined what's my take in becoming responsible.
Right.
So the UPLB life was interesting, fun, but I would say again, it taught me that sense of responsibility and being accountable for everything that you do. So that was the college life. I lived the full life of college. I didn't get to that MRR stage. I just enjoyed college. Right? But then again, after that, I started working in the BPO. And I'd had a BPO stint since graduation for more than a decade. That was my life.
Wow. So
I came into the startup world.
All right. That's I came from a BPO industry as well. My very first job was a call center agent. That's where I learned how to speak like this. Because Alwyn, if I look too hood, not good, hood. I'm from the hood. So if I didn't speak the way people are trying to, speak in a business environment, there's no chance I'm gonna get here. But I attribute the most important skill that I still have now, which is, obviously speaking perfect English, not perfect, almost perfect, or call center in English, whatever you fucking want to call it, to the BPO. But it also taught me persistence and also the basic building blocks of how to sell. And that's what I want to find out. If coming off of college, you went from BPO, I want to understand the skill stack you develop. Because if you stayed here for a while, the BPO industry is not easy to especially if you're going GY. It will chew you up and spit you out alive. It's not for the faint of heart. What were the very important skills that you remember developing in the BPO industry, and describe the grind that you had to go through straight out of college?
Okay. In the BPO industry, I'm not really into the sales. I'm more of like email support. So that was kind of more a chill environment compared to those who are doing calls, right? But when we were doing, I was an email support for a couple of years, and then I moved up the ladder. No, it was really, for me, it was really all about hitting my numbers. It's very KPI centric, that even for would you believe I'm not already a student, right? I'm not a student anymore, but then again, I'm already working, and then I was still very conscious of attendance, getting late, and what have you.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm kind of very, very KPI centered in that sense, that I would want to hit my numbers all the time, whether it's SLA, which is service level agreement,
Yep.
right? Or your QA. So that's kind of what I'm really into in terms of my working as a call center agent.
Got
And me hitting the numbers. I'm not really even after getting roles or awards or whatsoever. You know how it is in the BPO, right?
Yeah.
There's a top performer, top agent of the quarter, and all of that. I'm not after all of those recognition. But for me, as long as I hit my numbers or if I exceed it, I'm good already. And I believe that was something that I kind of imbibed as or I kind of practiced as I went along the industry, right? So in terms of me also getting a little bit that promotion, right? Getting to the TL, getting into the manager role. For me, it's all about hitting your numbers. But as I went into a more, or I say a leadership role, right? It's also being, again, going back to the story of being accountable. I have more accountability now because of the team that I manage. So I'm more than the numbers. I have to balance it now in terms of, am I also taking care of my team so that they will hit their numbers and at the same time be able to enjoy how it is like in the BPO industry, because that's the balance that's hard in the BPO, right? Yeah. When you're hitting your numbers and yet people are very, oh my goodness, I'm in GY again. I hate my TL. I hate my, all of that, right? Yeah. So for me, it was a conscious effort for me to make sure that the team, not just the individuals, but the entire team is hitting the numbers as a whole. But at the same time, trying to balance it off, that they don't find work as stressful and they don't hate it while they're doing it. Right. So that was how I was, I'd say, like a teammate in the TBPO industry. So that team skills was also very important, because you work with different kinds of people from all walks of life, right? So there's always an effort to be able to strike the balance among a group of diverse people, plus learning how to deal with every personality. Right. So as you know, right, in the BPO industry, it's kind of wild out there.
Yeah. It's crazy. Right. It's crazy because it's such a wide and diverse pool of people you're going to deal with. Some are professional, some are not, some are weird, some are not. But you get to really be kind of shell shocked in a good way, that, oh, this is how this works, blah blah blah. So I want to now understand a couple of things. So you obviously rose up the ranks. It's not easy, by the way, because I remember in the BPO industry, there's a saying that they're always hiring, because the lifespan of a typical agent will probably top out at 3 months. If you make it past that's why you're rare, because that's why certain batches or cohorts and whatnot, if you're lucky, you'll probably have one out of that. There's going to be instances that in a certain batch of hires, that whole thing is going to be wiped out. It's just like in a couple months, because nobody can sustain the grind. But you did not just sustain the grind, you rose up the ranks. I want to understand several things, because as you keep going up the ranks, and of course the constant theme would be you hitting your numbers. But you need to add on top of that, because it's not sufficient. As you mentioned earlier, you need to be able to handle your team, make them hit their numbers, and also do the qualitative stuff that, be a teacher, be a guidance counselor, be a friend, and everything else in between. I want to understand the stuff that you had to learn and unlearn as you rose up the ranks, because I think this is pivotal. That when you probably went to DOST, you're already a made product because you did it in the BPO. Would that be correct?
I'd say I also started from the ranks when I started in the in the startup business, right? In the BPO industry, to answer your question in terms of what do I have to do, it takes a lot of effort as an individual to learn things. It's again, it's not just really about hitting the numbers, because when you hit the numbers, how do you hit it? You just make sure you're mindful of your time spent in an email, in a call, or whatsoever, right? You follow the protocols in the quality control and all of that. So there are available resources for you to meet your KPIs. But in terms of as let's say, as you managing a team, right? Or as a team leader, as a manager and what have you, there's a lot more beyond the numbers. So it's really a matter of how you get to deal with people, how you handle difficult conversations and what have you, no? So to be candid about it, I had to read a lot.
Yep.
No, I had to read a lot of self-help business books, right? I
Wow.
had mentors and guidance from people also who told me that, hey, you have to understand situational leadership. You have to learn about SWOT analysis for you to be able to talk to them better. You have to understand their personalities and what have you, right? So I had to do all of that as an individual, as in my own capacity, and I also took advantage of the resources that are available. So let's say I work with Sykes, right? I think it was Found Her now. I don't know the name already, but if there's a leadership training, I'd sign up for it, whether I'd be sleepless for a week, right? Because that part of me is that yearning to learn, because I know it would help me perform my role better.
That's amazing. And that's very founder like, because if you really want to make it in life, right? If you're just gonna go through what's standard out there and what's on the curriculum per se, what they always say, and that's how kind of school kind of wires your brain, then you're just gonna be like everyone else, run of the mill, mediocre. If you want to get ahead, whether you're gonna be in corporate and whatnot, you have to really put in the extra work in learning on your own. Unfortunately, whatever you need to learn on your own, there's no curriculum. You need to figure that out on your own. And in entrepreneurship also, as a startup founder, it's worse because you don't have a template. Now there's at least 0 to 1 or 1 to 10. There's guides, there's mentors. Shout out to QBO because they exist. But back in the day, there's nothing. You're on your own. That's why trial and error is key. And the main skill you have to have there is the ability to learn on your own. That's constant. Doesn't matter how far you are in your life, how far you are in your career. If you don't have that, you're gonna have a really, really hard time. I want to understand now the next step. From BPO, how did that lead to DOST? Because this is where I think you spent a lot of your years really simmering for the startup ecosystem. Talk to us about that story.
Okay. So the story behind me getting into the Philippine startup ecosystem is that I was in the BPO for 11, 12 years. I only had one account.
Which
it's
one?
a big software industry,
Okay.
one of the biggest in the world, I'd
Okay.
say, right? And then that account had to be dissolved. So I had a choice whether I stay and move to a different account or I leave. Then I told myself that I think this is the time for me to try on something new. So I decided to leave.
Okay.
I had no work for a couple of months because I was really thinking, what's the next industry for me, right? Because in the BPO, as we know, I don't know if it's still true to this day, right? That back then in the BPO, people earn more compared to the regular jobs.
Yep.
Right?
Just a tad bit.
A little more, right? So my concern was, can the what how is it like in the other industries? What's the pay like? What's the environment like? I'm asking myself, will I be able to adapt? Right? So I said, okay, I'm gonna try whatever it is that I might find interesting. So funny, I was going before, sorry, this will date me. I was going through the job ads in the
It's all good. We're all
newspaper.
titos and titas here.
Yes. Right? So it's gonna date me. I was going through an ad in the paper, and then I saw this I think it's project or program coordinator role. And when I looked at the organization, it's DOST Enterprise TBI, which was,
TBI.
yes, which is upscale now, sorry.
Shout out, Doc Louie.
Yes, so Doc Louie, right? So I saw the job. It says project coordinator, the usual interaction with people, doing some a little bit of admin task and all. So more than the role, what really attracted me was the location. Because I live in QC. I live along the Maginhawa area, and the location was UP.
Okay,
I
that's
said, this
one
is the
egg roll
perfect.
away from CP Garcia. There you
Exactly.
go.
So I said, this is it. Because I don't like traveling anymore. Because in the BPO industry, we have several buildings. I
Yeah.
worked in Makati, I worked in Ortigas, I worked in Buendia, I worked all over. And I told myself, this is the perfect job for me because I won't have to worry about the commute and all. So when I did that interview, it was Doc Louie,
Yep.
Louis season of Upscale Innovation Hub who interviewed me.
Yep.
He gave me the role of the program project coordinator. I cannot remember anymore. And then that
Right.
started it. So that was my first ever job, I'd say, in this startup industry.
Okay, so it's a
I
brand new.
started again from the ranks.
Yep. So you started from the bottom again, brand new industry. Last question
Yes.
before we take our first break. What did you do, and how? Describe to me how the startup ecosystem was like from a TBI's point of view back then. And what year was this? 2014, 2015?
2012,
2012?
2013. Yes.
There. So IdeaSpace was literally just being created. Kickstart. Those were the
Yes.
forefathers of creating the startup ecosystem. And I described this before. Back then, a lot of the founders that were making were, I'd say 70% of them to 80% of them are devs. It's
Yes.
completely opposite now. I rarely see devs anymore. When you meet up, and when there's a gathering, like everything, where their product, they want to tinker around, they want to create MVP, and it's pretty fast now. It's like mostly business people. But if you look at it, there's not enough hustlers out there in terms of people who can sell. But describe to me, what was that like from a DOSC's point of view? Because again, now we have curriculums or frameworks like the Javelin board, business model canvas. I have a side story. At one point, I worked with Jay in ProudCloud. I had to learn the Javelin board and the business model canvas on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I printed a big ass tarp, plastered it on the wall, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing, dude? This is the new thing that the people use now." And I had to Google it, and then after a few months, everybody's just like, "All right, perfect." But what was that like? It's hard to teach startup journeys now or walk people through startups if there wasn't several things. Number one, there wasn't any clear winners. The winners before were SurePass. Yeah, probably ProudCloud. These are all product, service, business type startups. You don't have a peg. Second, there's not a lot of mentors. Third, there's no curriculum. What was that like from the DOSC point of view, 2012, 2013?
When 10 years ago, it was really different. The landscape was really different. To your point, there's no real framework. There's no specific program, I would say, right?
Yep.
And that was the sweet spot of DOST TBI UP TBI Enterprise back then.
Yep.
It was fairly new. Luckily, Doc Louis is in the academe, and me being a newbie in the industry, right? He had that patience to teach you. what is startup? Because he's really one of the OGs. I wouldn't call myself an OG. He's really an OG.
That's
no?
true. Totally agree.
So he would try to explain not just to me but to the entire team that what's a startup, what is technopreneurship, right? Yep. So we'd have long discussions about it. I remember he teaches this class for scholars in UP. I forgot the class name or title itself, right? Yeah. Wherein they would take them through a journey, how you build the product, customer discovery, and what have you. And I had to learn it. That's the thing, right? Because again, BPO, startup, and people don't even know the meaning of startup back then, right? So you have to explain it, businesses with technology and all of that. Because back then, 10, 12 years ago, if they say a new business, it's just new business. Yeah. There's no startup word that's used, right? Mm-hmm. So I had to learn it. I had to learn how to explain it. I had to sit in all of Doc Louis' classes to understand what this technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship is all about. Yeah. Right? So, again, I was just really following the curriculum of Doc Louis. There's really no curriculum like what we have right now in all of the incubators or accelerators that we have, no? So, and then I had to listen very well and understand what all of these are. And then I remember there's one project and he told me, maybe we can try to create an executive summary for each of these student groups. And then
without ChatGPT,
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
Now it's easy. You can get that done in 5 minutes.
Exactly. Right. And then I was saying one executive summary and 1 pagers. And then I told myself, oh my God, should I be in this industry or not? Right? Because I really have no idea what an executive brief is or 1 pager is, right? So, and then he showed me a sample, and then that started it. So I had to really understand the concepts, the business, the snippets that you have to put these pieces all together in 1 page. It's not even a business model canvas, right? Right. So I just understand I just had a good understanding of what the startup is, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was listening to the mentoring sessions. I'm sitting in taking down notes, and then I had to come up with an executive 1 pager. So I had to fill in the blanks. I tried it in my best capacity, best baon knowledge, right? To fill it out. And then that started it. Now I really had to learn, right? You have to research literally. No ChatGPT, no anything, right?
No peers to even copy from because nobody knows
exactly, shit. Right? And then there's even like an executive summary from a traditional business is different from an executive summary of a startup business, right? Yep. So I have to learn how to tweak it and understand it, of course, with the guidance also of Doc Louis, right? I was able to learn the ropes.
That is amazing.
So that's how it's just really a matter of learning.
Okay. And again, that's a constant theme because the moment you think you're there, you look around like, oh my God, whatever I know now is passé and I need to learn
correct.
again. All right, now let's take our first break, and when we come back, we will talk about how that progressed and how you got deeper and deeper and deeper into the startup ecosystem, and obviously how you got into IdeaSpace and eventually became the ED. But let's talk about that more after the break.
Hey hustlers, are you a busy entrepreneur juggling a ton of tasks while trying to keep your finances in check? Thinking of raising money from investors or lenders but have no idea how to start? Well, you are not alone. Managing business finances is tough. But don't worry, I got something for you. Introducing One CFO, the leading fractional CFO service and technology provider for SMEs, startups, and scale-ups in the Philippines. Whether you need help with financial management, fundraising strategy, or scaling up operations, their team of top-tier CFOs and their game-changing CFO tech platform have got you covered. And they're legit because I've heard about them from a lot of YC startups actually that got founded in the Philippines, because they've helped a ton of VC-backed startups, scale-ups, and some of the best SMEs in the country reach new heights. One CFO is your strategic financial partner, providing the insights, guidance, and the tools you need to make smarter decisions and drive growth. Plus, they offer personalized support tailored to what your business needs, no matter the size. And what's the best part? It won't break the bank. One CFO services are affordable and accessible to businesses of all sizes. So if you're ready to level up your business and finances, what are you waiting for? Schedule a free CFO consultation with One CFO. Visit onecfoph.co today. That's onecfoph.co today to get your free CFO consultation.
And we're back from the break. We are still with Alwyn Rosel, and told us the amazing origin story of how he got into the startup ecosystem. And I love the theme because while you're telling me the story, this is the story or the history of all the startup ecosystem, startup founders from my generation. We didn't know shit, right? So we had to figure out things on our own. And it was harder for a local startup founder because you couldn't have too many role models. I'm lucky I had Joji Azurin walk me through the ropes. So again, I attribute a lot of what I know and how my mind is right in not just getting things done, but also paying it forward. That's why I keep coming back, because he did. And he was my role model. He's my idol. So if he did it, why shouldn't I? Right? But I'm lucky I had that access. Not everybody did. And even if you had access, it doesn't guarantee that you're gonna have a you're gonna have a okay journey, because it's ruthless. The startup ecosystem chews you out and spits you out, and then let's see if you survive. A lot of my peers, when I started out 10 years ago, failed. Very few tried again. And I'm just fortunate that I probably was persistent enough and I had opportunities like QBO to give me one more try. And lucky, because of QBO, I was able to get my second startup acquired, Chatbot PH, and my third one got invested on by IdeaSpace. But again, that's rare and that's not common. I'm not tooting my own horn because I just know what I had to go through and how treacherous the journey was. But I want to now understand from your point of view, because what you're building here at the start is community building for the startup ecosystem. I want to understand, Alwyn, because obviously you're going to walk us through the next steps in DOST. Why is the community aspect from a DOST point of view so important? Because the government can choose not to care, right? Because at the end of the day, this is not even an industry back then. Diba? This doesn't employ a lot of jobs back then. The founders can barely even make ends meet a lot of times. But why was it so important, and how did you grow from that era where you're just making executive summaries to where you to the next few years in DOST?
So to answer your question on the DOST side, no, DOST funded UP. I think there were just 5 incubators back then. There's UP Techno Hub. There's the one behind ASTI. I forgot what it's called, but it's already closed now. Right. And then there's Upscale. So there were very, very few. And it was really, I would say, a bold move for DOST to look into startups. I believe it was also influenced by Dado Banatao himself, right? He worked closely with UP. He's been supporting students. Doc Louie, Dean Gev, or Dean Au Matias, and Yusek Guevara, Rowena Guevara back then were the champions in not just in the academe, but also in DOST, that they want to look into the startup ecosystem. Because again, of the influence probably of Dado Banatao, they've known Dado, they've worked with him in several projects. So that kind of pushed it, and then that gave I'm not really from the government. I've worked with the TBI supported by the government, but I think I'd like to say that kind of gave the government the window to look into innovation and technopreneurship, because they would hear new technologies being developed in certain academies, right? Whether it's from the US, from Southeast Asia, and then they feel that we can also do it. So why not take a chance?
Right.
So that started it, right? So when DOST funded DOST UP Enterprise Upscale now, right? It was really full support in terms of what can we do? Who do we need to come in to make this ecosystem better and even bigger, right? I give my hats off to DOST that before 12 years ago, if you hear the word startup, technopreneurship, I myself would buckle in terms of how I explain it, right? And then I had to give this very long explanation, and at the end of it all, they would just tell me, okay, as if they understood, right? So now, if you meet people, you say startup, oh, really interesting, right? So it's a different vibe already.
Correct.
So, DOST wanted just to support incubators, support programs. So we've got several projects to run student entrepreneurship programs, to run professional entrepreneurship programs. And as I learned the ropes, right? Because it's only, I think that was I was also kind of lucky because only a few people understand it back then, right? Yep. So if ever there's going to be a new project, I'm the person who understands it, right? So I get to handle that project. So in that sense, that also kind of helped me move up the ladder, right? With all this learning and me being embedded in the community, right? So to your point, you mentioned that you were really grateful for Georgie. We all love Georgie. He really has that pay it forward. He's also a Kubo mentor, just like you, right? And I think that's really the mindset that we all wanted in the startup community. It's that pay it forward attitude, right? That when I was learning it in let's say in UP back then, I'm learning from Doc Louie and all the other mentors that I worked with. All of them had that mindset. Yep. You pay it forward, right? So when DOST was saying that, we want to have more incubators, we'd want to have more TBIs, people in the community, and that includes you, right? When people just ask for help, that can you do this for the community? Yep. We always say yes. We'd always say we're busy and all of that. But to your point, we end up showing up anyway. Yeah. Right? Because that's how we would want it. So that kind of started it growing, the community. So DOST wanted to do more. And then back then in UP, I remember meeting Earl, Martin, Minette. Because yun nga UP was one of the first incubators. So they had to meet with Doc Louie and get his funds and get his insight. Oh, we're putting up a private incubator accelerator. What are your thoughts? What can be done? And all of that. And I saw how Doc Louie was paying it forward, that he's not that kind of selfish. No, I just want a UP incubator. He was really all out in sharing all of this knowledge, and he was even encouraging, yes, we need more of you, right? So that kind of grew and grew, right? Up to this day, we have a lot already of incubators and accelerator, both private, public, and even in the academe, right? But going back, that's really when I've seen how it is to work in the community, get the support of everyone, right? And be able to contribute in your own little way. So that kind of when they asked me to for a role, I would say, na, can you do this kind of job? Can you handle this program? I just say yes. And at the back of my mind, bala na si Batman. Parang startup mindset, right? Yep. You say, oh, can you do this? Oh, yeah, right. But yep. But the reality is, wala ka pang product.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
On that fight mode na, okay, I can do that. Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's do that, right? So, So that kind of started it. I from being coordinator,
Yeah.
I handled projects. I worked more with stakeholders and what have you. So my role also kind of evolved
I
as
love
I
it.
learned the ropes.
Okay, so obviously you went through the ropes. I'm just gonna go through fast forward here
Yes.
through DOST, and then you ended up also doing this the same literally during early pandemic, right before the pandemic and early pandemic for AIM.
Mhm. Yes.
So it's a whole different thing because again, before the problem was we don't have access to information, world class
Mhm.
execution. AIM is at the epicenter of that,
Mhm.
right? For those people who don't know AIM, what the hell? It's Asian Institute of Management. But okay, I just but yeah, walk me through this now. So after this is where when I saw you, like, oh wow, Alwyn is here in Kubo. What's up? There you go.
Mm.
So walk me through what happened there real quick and walk me through how you went to the other side of Paseo de Rojas to go to Kubo.
Okay. Sige. You know that's kind of a funny story because I've been in the industry for 13 years, but
Mm.
it's not 13 years straight. So I've worked with UP. I was with UP upscale around
Mm.
4 years, more or
Mm.
less, right? So after UP, I said na maybe it's time for me to take a break and try other industries because I know I can try another industry. I did it when I joined the startup industry.
Yep.
So I took a break. I can't remember if I did the BPO back then or I did training consultancy back then. So I kind of paused for a while
Mm.
and then I got a call and then they asked me, it was Dustin,
Mm.
right? Dustin called me, he said, AIM has an incubator. It's called Dado Banato Incubator, and they're looking for somebody to help manage it. And said, I'll give it a try. So that
Nice.
started. I was on a break, and then that started it. That I went to AIM. I worked.
Justin was still in IdeaSpace back then.
No more. No more.
Ah,
I
wow.
believe he was.
E27?
I'm not sure if he was with E27, but I think he was kind of transitioning out of that Dado Banato incubator because it was managed before by PhilDev. So they were transitioning out of AI and they needed to have somebody manage it. So that started my stint with AIM. So I've worked with AIM. We've run programs. We've been working closely with the academe of AIM on the innovation side of students. So we just run programs and still me as an individual, I've also worked with DOST. I'm also a technical panel for DOST P-Shirt, wherein we review grants, whether it's for establishment of an incubator or startups sending up proposals for their grants, right? So that's what I've been doing. And then pandemic happened, right? So it was a very interesting time because it was in a snap of a finger, everything changed.
Yep.
Right? So we are all stuck at home. The kids, I have 2 kids, right? The kids have to be in a full
Homeschool.
homeschool schedule, right? Not work from home, homeschooled and all of that. So it came to a point that I don't think I can handle running a program and
Yeah,
at the
full-time
same
mom.
time helping the kids adjust to full-time all online things. So
Right.
it was a choice
Right.
about me looking into, priorities, motherhood,
Makes sense.
career, or
Of course, babies all the time. Number one. Okay.
right? So I chose family, of
Of
course,
course.
right? So again, I was on break
Mm.
until maybe after 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. I was on a 6-month break, and then I got a call again. I can't remember who sent me a
Who
message.
keeps giving your number out there?
Diba? I should not
people
put
call
my
right
number
out?
out there, no? So somebody gave me a call or texted me and said, Kubo is looking for a program head. And I'd said, oh, that's a new role. And I'd say it's coming. And I would say that it's getting leveled up in that sense, right?
Yeah.
I came from project coordinator, I became program project lead, I became manager in AIM, and then they said, okay, Kubo's looking for a program head
Mhm.
for startup development. And then I said, okay, I can give it a try. So I had a conversation with Kat. I had a conversation with Butch. And then that started it. So that
Got it.
started my stint in Kubo.
Okay.
During the pandemic, everything online, because I said after 6 months, we already learned how to manage the household, the kids in school. So I think I'd like to believe that I was able to put everything in place already at home, right? So I accepted the role, and that started my Kubo role.
Okay. Now you're at Kubo. I want to understand
Mhm.
because I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. If this analogy kind of makes sense.
Mhm.
If DOST and AIM was
Mhm.
more theoretical in nature,
Mm.
Kubo is practical because you're really creating startups,
Mhm.
helping them out from whatever facet they have, 0 to 1, whatever, all the way to even helping them get invested on.
Mhm.
And the floodgates are open. You can't just do it in cohort now. I'll just do 2 or 3 or 10 at this.
Mhm.
We're talking about thousands. You're doing Philippine Startup Week. The whole shebang is here.
Mhm.
What was that like? And walk me through the most difficult part and the most rewarding part of your first stint as a head of startup development in Kubo IdeaSpace.
Okay. In DOST, UPTBI before, and even in AIM, um, both run one program or two program a year.
Mm.
So that was kind of manageable, right? So
I love
in
how you start this out. This is
right,
kind of manageable.
it's it's manageable, right? Because if let's say if it's based in the academe, Doc Louis has his class, which is per semester, right? And then you run an incubator program at the same time. So that's kind of two
Yeah.
simultaneously, right? With AIM, it's different because they want it to be very, very hands-on, that we ran one program per year only, right? So imagine the intensity of that hands-on um, program or cohort, right? But when I got to Kubo, I wouldn't say it's culture shock, but it was not just one, not just two, but three or more programs running
Yep.
simultaneously, right? So I was kind of, oh gosh, this is quite a lot, right? So it's a good thing that I have a team who's very supportive,
Yes.
regardless if it's Bush, if it's Cat, if it's the startup development team, or if it's another department within the organization, right? They helped me go through it because the hustle was different.
Yeah.
Right? So 1, 2, 3 programs a year, okay, right? But running 4 in 1 quarter, that's a different ball game.
Yep.
So it really has to do with a lot of time management, a lot of hustling, in the sense that being on top of everything and making sure that everything's running and happening to a certain standard,
Yeah.
right? And you would have to manage the team to be able to deliver that. So that was a different kind of hustle. It's
Right.
more fast paced, it's more dynamic, I would say, just really because of the number, right? So that kind of um I wouldn't say really culture shock, but that kind of uh allowed me to push myself to the limit,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm in the role, right? I have to make sure that the responsibility, the accountability that they gave me is something that I would be able to deliver.
Got it. All right.
So
Last
that
question before we take our last break. So now you're here, pandemic is here, and the volume and the programs that you guys are running
Mhm.
is crazy. But and I would liken it to being a startup founder. I'd say out of 10 days, 8 days are hell. Or probably even 9 days are hell. But that one day where everything falls into place and everything is great, it thwarts the 9 days of hell that you're gonna feel. What does that feel like from an IdeaSpace and Kubo point of view? Where do you get the utmost satisfaction at? Oh my God, this shit is worth it.
Okay. Very interesting. At the if we're running all of these programs and then we hear people, oh, you're really doing a lot, right? We would say, because we like what we do. It sounds as cliche as it might sound, right? And we say, para sa bayan, di ba? That's why we're doing all of this, right? It's busy, it's hectic, I would say, but it's busy and hectic that to a point na I would say na busy and hectic, but I like it.
Yep.
Right? It's not busy and hectic, but I hate it. Right? So it's busy and hectic because I know at the end of the day, whatever it is that we are doing, it contributes one way or another, not just to the founder, not just to the stakeholder, but to the entire startup ecosystem. Right?
I love it.
So that kind of gives us that purpose, and that keeps our passion going. I'd share with you a story. We just had we had our strat plan last week, right? And
I saw the pics, by the way. You uploaded it. Oh,
right?
There you go.
Yes. So we had our strat planning last week, and we had an icebreaker. And there was a question there that asked you, if you were to come up with a song for your life in Kubo, what would that be? So
Okay.
right? It was kind of interesting, right? And you know what? No bola. The first thing that came to mind, the first song that came to mind was Happy.
Happy by
Happy come
Pharrell?
up. I don't know, right? Yeah, yes.
By Pharrell?
Yes. Yes, that song, right?
Okay.
And they were asking me why. Sabi ko, because even if I'm busy, even if I work long hours, even if, let's say, I deal with a lot of people, I've been hustling days and night, maybe sometimes 24/7 and all of that. At the end of the day, I could always say that I like what I'm doing.
I love it.
That's why that song, the song that I gave the team was Happy.
And that's why if you find joy in what you do, you're not working. You're actually just playing. Right? Because if you find joy, and again, this is rare. Most people probably do not like what they do in their professional life. That's why they find an escape. And I mean, yes, it's hell 9 times out of 10, but I wouldn't trade this for anything else.
Yeah.
I love what I do. And I'm not working. I'm just having fun. Yes, there's a lot of days that, my God, what the hell is this?
Yes,
everything's but I signed up for this, and this is where I find joy. And I don't need an escape because I'm living the life that I want.
Yes.
That I envision. So that's amazing. All right, now let's take our last break, and when we come back, we will now talk about what is it like now being the new ED of Kubo and IdeaSpace. And I want to understand also what's in store, because of course we're gonna have to run through the eras of the leadership, but what is Kubo and IdeaSpace under the Alwyn Rosel regime? Well, let's talk about that more after the break.
Hey hustlers, before we resume the episode, let me tell you a very quick secret. Do you guys ever wonder how we're able to consistently release episode after episode here in Hustleshare without missing a date over the past 3 years? Well, it's not just pure hustle, because I'm also running my podcast along with me running my startup full time. Now, for some of you who have listened to this podcast, you guys very well know that I created a startup that is designed to help the best podcasters in Southeast Asia to realize their full potential, which is called Podcast Network Asia. And over the past couple of years, we've achieved quite a lot in P&A, helping hundreds of podcasters create world-class episodes consistently. However, what we realize is that we are not really solving the real problem of all podcasters in the world if we're not going to productize the thing that we're very good at, which is helping podcasters solve the 2 main pain points of a podcaster, which is number 1, nobody really likes to edit their own show. Especially if you're listening to your own voice. Just like me, I cringe a lot. Having to listen to my voice for 3 to 4 hours just to release a 1-hour episode. it's no fun. And then the other thing is that most podcasters, just like me, are absolutely clueless on how to properly grow their show, which is something that we have perfected in Podcast Network Asia. So we've decided to put this all in one product that helps any podcaster in the world create world-class shows that people will love and will continuously grow. And that's why we created Podmachine. Podmachine is the most affordable podcast subscription service that helps you with your podcasting needs. We've got everything from audio production, crafting designs, and marketing and growth support. So as a podcaster, you can now just focus on the thing that matters the most, creating great content for your listeners. So if you are an existing podcaster or someone that actually wants to create their podcast now, no need to worry. You got a founder's discount by listening here on Hustleshare. So sign up now at podmachine.com. And aside from the free trial that you're going to get as a new user, I'm throwing in another one free edit as soon as you sign up for just as low as $49.99 USD a month to start creating a consistent and world-class podcast. Again, that's podmachine.com and use the code Hustleshare to get your founder discount. So if you have friends that are podcasters and if you want to have a podcast just like this, y'all know what to do. So just go and talk to you guys in Podmachine.
And we're back from the break. We are still with Alwyn Rosel. Then told us the amazing journey of that how he got DOST to IdeaSpace. But again, after a quick break, we went to E27 for a bit. Did you get a call na naman? Who put your number out there? What was it like? Because I remember asking Ben. I was like, "Yo, where's Alwyn? Oh, he's in E20. What? Why is he in E27?" And then after a few months back, I saw you come back. What was that like? And how did it go through this role? And I'm just gonna go through this. I've seen IdeaSpace through every single era.
Mhm.
Earl Valencia era. Every single time there's a regime change, I'm shocked. Hala, what will happen na? That's always a question. So in a way, it's a question now, but I'm not asking any other people. I'm asking you yourself. So from Earl to Diane, Diane to Kat, Kat to
Okay.
Jay to you. I want to understand before that, because you had exposure working with Kat also and with Jay, right? So what did and probably even learn indirectly, not through IdeaSpace when you were inside yet. But what did you take from each previous leader of IdeaSpace that you bring with you now?
Okay. Yeah, so I had a short stint with E27 and then they called me to go back to QBO and all of that. Right?
Where is this number being posted? In
Yes,
Startup
I know.
PH ba?
I know, right? Maybe it's out there if you Google it. It's the number, but yes, right. So I've known all of the leaders of IdeaSpace, right? When I was with UP, I've met Earl. We've had engagements with IdeaSpace back then, right? With Diane, of course, I was with UP. I was with AIM. I've known Diane. It's a very small community. I've worked with her in the DOST engagements that we both have, right? And then with Kat, I've known her because back then IdeaSpace and QBO are two separate entities.
Correct.
Right? So I know also Kat because the UP upscale and AIM are both DOST funded, and QBO is also DOST funded. So we get together from time to time, right? So I know Kat. And when I went to to QBO and IdeaSpace, when the time it became a one organization, I've had that pleasure of working with Kat. So. And then with Kat, I think Kat and I left at the same time, and then Jay came in. But I've known Jay because he's an OG, right? Proud Cloud days, right? So I've known Jay through Launch Garage and what have you. So I've known him, and then I worked with him for some time, and he was with IdeaSpace, right? So I've known everyone, and all of them are amazing, right? But of course, like any other individual, each has their own style.
Correct.
Right? So, you'd see Earl, he's like chill, but he's very brilliant. He has good, wild ideas. You work with Diane, he's really very nurturing as a
Mother hen.
right? Mother, right? But she's also looking out for the organization and all, right? You'd see Kat being very passionate because he started with IdeaSpace to Kubo as an intern to executive director, right? So he's really passionate about the community and all of that, right? You'd see Jay becoming an OG. He was seeing it grow, the ecosystem grow, and he's got that chill, that chill vibe that Jay has, right? And I think that's something that I would want also to kind of parang not really copy. I would want to have that vibe with me, that when everything is already chaotic, chaos, and hectic, busy, but it's also okay, yeah, let's do that. So he's very chill in that sense, but things are gonna happen, right? So those are the things that I've seen in all of them, right? With Kat really being very, very passionate about the programs, really taking care of the people in the organization and the community, right? With Kat Funny, we're really into the Q brand,
Yes.
right? Kubo community, QT, collaboration,
Kulitan.
Cubate, and all of that, right? So, and that's something that we'd also want to live by until now, right? As IdeaSpace Kubo. And I've also seen how passionate she is for Startup Pinay.
Yeah.
And it's something that we would really want to continue, that we'd want to see more women founders, not because of inclusivity or equity and what have you, right? But it's really more of encouraging more people. Right?
For sure. And we're lucky because we see that now in SVA, in Sinigang Valley. That's where she spends a little bit more time. Not completely in when IdeaSpace in, but that's where she is. But Alwyn, that's what I want to now ask. So obviously the ball's with you now, right? What's next for IdeaSpace in Kubo? Because again, for every single regime change, the question always resurfaces, right? Like, okay, what's next? What are we gonna go through? Because I'm pitching in my hat. I'm always gonna be here to help out.
Yes.
But where are you taking this, and where can we help to help not just you, but also the startups that you support? Because it's a vital part of the ecosystem, right? You more than it doesn't matter who's in charge or the regime, but as long as Kubo and IdeaSpace exists, it's the most inclusive program that's being run in this country. And the stamina that you guys have is bar none. You're the only one who do this the right way. It's not perfect, but it's being done the right way, coming from the right point of view. But what's next? What's next for IdeaSpace in Kubo, and where are you guys taking this?
Okay. So when I told you we had a strat plan, a team building last week, right? And the team, we were discussing it. What's gonna be like? What's going to be 2025 like, right? So when they asked me that, I told them that we're not gonna change anything, right? Because as you know how IdeaSpace Kubo over the years, it's not really changing in the sense that, we're doing this now, tomorrow we're not going to do this, right? Or we're supporting founders now. No, we have to be selective of the founders now and all of that. That didn't happen, right? But I've seen it over the years that it's not a matter of changing things, but it's a matter of doing more. So that's what we want to do for IdeaSpace Kubo starting this year, right? We just want to do more. We just want to be able to come up with more programs so that there will be more opportunities for startups, whether you're a student, whether you're a professional or what have you. We want to do more. We'd want to do a lot more also of our ecosystem building activities, right? We've been doing a lot of the mapping North Visayas, Mindanao, right? So we'd want to do more of that, because that way, I'd like to believe we are evangelizing about the Philippine startup ecosystem. So it's really about us doing more rather than changing anything.
Got it.
So the team is very much aligned that we'd want to be able not just to support the ecosystem. We'd want to really, to your point, we'd want to be really very inclusive. And when we say the ecosystem, it's the
Mm.
startups, it's the investors, it's the government, it's the academe, it's the private sector. But there's one thing that we would also want to do more is that we'd want to have more, I would say, international partners. Okay,
Mm.
not really for the organization, but we want to open more doors of opportunities to our startups.
Got it.
Because you know our tagline, right? Filipino startups changing the world,
Mm.
right? And there can't be Filipino startups changing the world if we won't be opening new doors for them.
Yep.
So that way we can open new doors for them, and we are doing it alone, right? We're doing it with the help of everyone also in the community. Includes you, like founders who are helping founders, right? Paying it forward. It's the academe who is also trying to build entrepreneurial mindset about our students, the government trying to bring in more programs and what have you, right? So in all of the things that we're doing more, we'd want to have more people join us also as we move the not just the organization to a different level, but the entire ecosystem to the next level.
All right. Now, I want to zoom in on the most important aspect of who you guys support, which are the founders. And you've been here long enough. You've seen founders from 10 years ago, 12, 13 years ago to what it is now. Well, based on your observation, and it's a wild take because you can never predict. But based on the patterns that you've seen, if you're going to give advice to founders that are just starting now, what are the attributes or what are the things that founders that end up becoming more successful compared to those ones who are probably just a little bit lagging behind? Because you've seen everything in terms of who's up here at the forefront, who struggled, who failed. And sometimes, again, the guy who failed now, it can be the guy that will succeed next time. It's never a finite state unless you really stop trying. But what are the attributes that you see that contribute to startup success from a founder's point of view?
Okay. One, of course, is hustling. Nothing's
Hustling?
gonna happen. It's gonna happen if you don't hustle, whether you're a founder or not, right?
Yeah.
If you just stay in one corner, don't do anything, all talk, no walking, and all of that, right? You walk, talk, right? So you have to really learn how to hustle. And in part of hustling, you have to have an open mind, right? In one, learning new things, trying out new things, accepting failure, which I would say humility is also important, right? Because not because you've built something, that means you're the best at it and nothing can ever break it, or, because humility, I'd say it's, again, being humble enough to learn new things. Right? Being humble enough to accept that, okay, it didn't work out. Right? And then come and on to the next one. Right? So that's very, very important. Another thing is, right, I would say not just as a startup founder, but relationships is also very, very important.
Yes, especially in the city.
Yes. Right? If you are humble enough, you know how to hustle and you have good relationship with people, right? Whether you're starting, whether you've made it big, but you are a person who would be always willing to help, always be willing to listen, right? And you being very true to yourself and to other people, that would be a key in keeping relationships. Because the relationship, whether you have now with somebody, right, whether it's a work-related relationship, family relationship, or what have you, right? It helps you build your character, and it helps you become a person I would want to have that connection, and that connection can lead to anything, right? And you wouldn't know, right? It
Yeah.
might help you become the next big founder. It can help you the next big investor, the next whatever, right? So I'd say keeping relationships, learning how to hustle, and being humble enough.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Alwyn. But before I let you go, of course, there's going to be a lot of programs you're going to be running. So invite people over if they want to work, if they want to collaborate. What's next? And if they want to reach out to you, please, again, the number is just out there. I don't know where to find it. Everybody has it. But where, if what's next, Muna, for the IdeaSpace and Kubo Group? And then what, if they want to reach out to you, where do they go and how do they do that?
So right now thanks, Rano. Right now we're working on several programs. We have the step one, running it with the U.S. Embassy. We'd have to have more science high school students, senior high school students, and university students to learn more about entrepreneurship. It's more of that advocacy and evangelization mode, wherein we would want to have more, even the teachers also, to learn more about innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. Of course, we're also part of Scale NCR, which is a DOST funded program. We're part of a NCR consortium, meaning there's a group of TBIs in Metro Manila. And we're hoping that we could be able to have more people involved in the startup ecosystem. We're running ecosystem mappings. The team just went to Isabela and Kawayan up north. I believe we're going down Visaya somewhere, Dumaguete, in the coming weeks, and maybe somewhere Caraga in the next few months. No, so we'd really want to strengthen the ecosystem by going out to these key provinces, key cities, and gather the stakeholders and evangelize and share what we are doing for the startup community and how they can contribute to the startup community. In the next few days, we're gonna be launching another program, a big program. We've done this before. We're gonna be doing it again with a very reputable and big company, and we're happy that we have another round with them. So we'd want to have more startups to help them scale also. Working with big corporate groups, right? So we're doing more of that. We want to do more innovation programs also. There's a lot of things in the work, but you'll see in our Facebook and Instagram pages that as we announce all of this, right? But of course, we still have the Kubo community, wherein anybody can be part of the community. You just have to go to our website, www.kuboinnovation.com. You join the community. You fill out a form, and then you automatically become part of the community. And the part of the community, this is a free, I'd say, capacity building program that we offer anyone, right? Wherein they can book their mentors and have consultations with them. Ron here, of course, is one of our mentors who've always been helping out. So right? Because we want all the new founders and even founders to learn from fellow founders who've been through it.
Yep.
Right.
Fucked up a gazillion times. There you go.
Right. Because again, right, it's really a community built by people who would want to help out.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want for IdeaSpace and Kubo. That's why we're bringing in more mentors like Ron. There's a list of mentors that we have who are really very open to share and who are really willing to share their knowledge and expertise. Because that's their way of, giving back, and we're happy that, right? And it's also creating impact to the new one. So that's something that we find very meaningful, and that's something that we want to grow more of also, right? So they can join our community. Once you've joined that community, you'll be part of our newsletters, where you'll be updated with all the events that's happening for IdeaSpace Kubo. We are also going to be working with DOST through Scale. We're going to be having a NCR, or a National Capital Region Business Incubator Summit sometime
right.
So that's a big one. Plus, there's of course, we're hoping that we'll be also going through some activities, also more of the academe and into the industry. Again, going back, we just really want to have more opportunities for our startups also.
That is amazing, Alwyn. Thanks so much. But before I let you go, follow us whatever podcast app you're listening to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if we did say some jargon, it's going to be the show notes on hustleshare.com. If you also want to support Hustleshare and doing content like this, it's going to be in the premium.hustleshare.com. Again, Alwyn, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ron.
All right, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.